Well, it's getting close to that time of year again, and the Blue Jays are about to announce who their opening day starter will be. But is it who we think?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco, Carter First too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here to YouTube, or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You guys will get podcasts, shorts, live streams, videos, the whole ordeal. And then Discord link is down in the description as well. For those of you playing in the Locked On Blue Jays Fantasy League, that kicks off with the draft on Sunday. So make sure you're tuned in, drafting a good squad, 20-person league. So I don't know how this is going to go. A lot to get into today. We got a bunch of injury updates that we have to get into that could affect the start of the year. We'll talk about all of that as well. The Blue Jays did make a signing. We'll let you guys in on who that was. But first of all, Carter, by the time that everybody's listening to this, the Blue Jays will either be announcing or have announced the opening day starter. But let's talk about it. What's the right decision? Which way is the right way to go here for opening day? And is there really a wrong decision? What do you think? Where would you be placing your money if you were betting who the opening day starter would be for the Toronto Blue Jays?
I think when you look at the opening day starters, I think there really only is two options. But before I get into that, I'm just going to say I think an opening day starter is kind of like an overrated thing. Again, it is a nice, like, sentimental thing and just like an achievement for some of these, especially these younger pitchers, like Paul Skeens getting his first one. That's obviously going to be a special moment for him. But for the guys like Kevin Gausman, Max Scherzer, Jose Berrios, like Chris Bassitt, Bowden Francis would probably mean a lot too. But those four, I don't think they necessarily care too much if they're going to be starting on opening day. All these guys in their rotation are going to be pitching every 5 days anyway, with Max Scherzer to a little bit different with his age. But you expect Jose Berrios to make around 30 starts. You're expecting Kevin Gausman to make 30 starts. Chris Bassitt to make 30 starts. Bowden Francis, you hope he can make 25 to 30 starts. We'll have to see how that does pan out. But for me, there's really only two options. There's two people I think it can be for the opening day starters. It's either going to be Jose Berrios or it's going to be Kevin Gausman. And what we've kind of seen in the opening days recently, not as much in 2024, but 2023 and 2022, I thought there might just be a little bit of a trend starting, and it was not necessarily going well for the Toronto Blue Jays. Because in 2022, the opening day starter was Jose Berrios, coming off of a pretty good year in 2021. He had a horrific year in 2022, probably the worst year of his career. Absolutely blew up against the Texas Rangers. I think he got one out, gave up like 5 runs. Was a horrendous game to watch. They ended up winning that game, so it was nice in that sense in the game as an entirety. But from the Jose Berrios experience, not a very fun watch for him. And that year obviously did not go according to plan. Alek Manoah started in 2023 after this top 3 Cy Young award candidate in 2023. We all know what happened there. Completely fell off the map. Pressure is something you put in your tires. Clearly not. Pressure might have gotten to Alek Manoah in that year because he was absolutely horrible. But then we had Jose Berrios starting again in 2024, and he had a typical Jose Berrios year. So we kind of dodged that narrative. The Blue Jays are 3-0 in their last 3 opening day starts. So obviously you do want to start the season on a good note, but I'm going to throw it back to you. Do you think there is more options than just the two? And give us your opening day pitcher that you think it's going to be.
Yeah, well, it's a weird conversation because some of me feels like, hey, give it to the guy that's either going to fire up the team and the fans and create that environment, that a great sort of electric environment on opening day. So would be a guy like Alek Manoah coming back, or maybe a Bowden Francis. But I think specifically, if you look at this year, who's gonna make people jump out of their seats when they walk out to the mound opening day? Well, probably the 3-time Cy Young winner, Max Scherzer. Is he my guess? No, I don't think he will be. But I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, then Max Scherzer's got to be your guy. People buying Max Scherzer jerseys on opening day would be absolutely electric. Is it the best idea? No, because of the point I'm about to make, in that you want to set yourself up for success all season. If you go out there and your pitcher throws a dud on opening day, it just the mindset, everything starts to creep in a little bit. And I think with the unknown around Max Scherzer of how he's going to perform this season, I think that's a little bit of a long shot. For me, it's got to be Kevin Gausman, Carter. The guy has been the ace of this team. He has been, some would say, the backbone a little bit of going out there and putting up good performances. A lot of the time that he steps up to the mound, you know exactly what kind of pitcher you're going to get when Kevin Gausman steps on the mound there. So I think Kevin Gausman, but a wild card take if the Blue Jays want to, really fill the seats opening day, maybe they throw Max Scherzer. I don't know.
I think it'd be absolutely hilarious if they decided to go with Max Scherzer. I was actually going to bring that up as my dark horse as well. I don't think it's going to happen at all, but I just think it would be a funny narrative to see Max Scherzer opening day pitch for the Toronto Blue Jays. But I think what is going to happen, since we do have that 4-game set against the Orioles and we play the Nationals right after, I think they're going to have that little bit of a storyline there with Max Scherzer against his former team once again. So I think there it makes sense for me. Max Scherzer probably going to pitch the 5th game of the year, maybe the 4th game, depends on what they want to do. Kevin Gausman, I don't think you really go wrong with Kevin Gausman. I think he's going to have the best year out of all the pitchers. But you talked about a guy that you want to know what he's going to do out there, a guy that I'm confident in. Again, that eating innings notion is very big. You don't want to tax your bullpen in the first day of the regular season. And I wouldn't mind Kevin Gausman. I really don't think there's a wrong answer here, but I'm going to go with Jose Berrios just because of how he was in 2024. Kevin Gausman coming off of a little bit of a down year. Also, Jose Berrios, the longest tenured starting pitcher. I'm not counting Bowden Francis. He got traded to the Blue Jays a month before, but was not with the Blue Jays at that time, was in AAA. So I think it's Jose Berrios, a guy that's going to eat innings, a guy that I'm confident in. Like, again, just had a 6-inning pitching appearance the other day on Sunday. So Kevin Gausman, wouldn't care if it's him. I think that's a good option as well. But I'm going to go with Jose Berrios because I think that's the most certain that he's going to put you in a good spot to win your opening day start.
Yeah, and that's fair. Like we talked about, there's really no completely wrong choice here. And let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you haven't already seen who it is, let us know who you guys think. And maybe we're all wrong. Maybe they'll throw Bowden Francis for opening day. It should be interesting. But Carter, to my point of, and this is sort of where I want to take this conversation a little bit, starting the season off well, right? Opening day, your first series, whatever it is. Does that, for you, is that a big thing you're looking for in the first, the first set against the Orioles is, hey, we're going to take it to these teams immediately right away, try to, start that forward momentum into the season? Or does that really not matter for you and you're not the Ross Atkins, John Schneider mindset of it's still early and it doesn't matter?
You got to start hot if you're the Toronto Blue Jays. With all the narratives this offseason, with how 2024 went, with the AL East, how that went last year, how they were horrific against pretty much every single AL East team. You got the Baltimore Orioles for a 4-game set. At the bare minimum, you have to split this series. You cannot lose this opening day series to the Baltimore Orioles because then I don't even want to see the people on Twitter, on Instagram, all the takes that we're going to be seeing, all the hate that's going to be on the Toronto Blue Jays. Probably everyone saying, oh, this is, who would have thought the Toronto Blue Jays starting out 1-3 or 0-4, God forbid. And then we just have a bunch of negativity early on in the season. I think a lot of this, a big year for a lot of the Toronto Blue Jays players. It's a big year for the Toronto Blue Jays organization. Ross Atkins said that he doesn't want to take any safety. He doesn't want to take any precautions. Wants to abandon the safety nets. I think you do have to start early because we saw how it worked when you play from behind. You get under 500 early. Toronto Blue Jays last year were battling to get back to 500. Never really seemed to happen, never really seemed to catch fire. You get those wins early on the season. We've seen the Tampa Bay Rays do it recently. We've seen the Baltimore Orioles do it. Some team in the AL East is going to go on a massive hot streak to start the season. Why not us? Why can't it be the Toronto Blue Jays?
Why not us is right. That might be the mentality of the Toronto Blue Jays this year. Why not us? No, it should be interesting. And that's exactly how I feel too. I think you got to start hot. They need to. You brought up some great points, right? Looking back at last year, the narrative around this team, right? A lot of people, are sort of putting the Blue Jays out of their mind. It's a 3-horse race. The Blue Jays are somewhere else down below with the Rays somewhere, which I think is a crazy narrative to have, but one that I'm not shocked about. I think with everything that's happened over the past couple of years, it's sort of all led to, the fan base, the media. I don't want to say turning on the Blue Jays, but maybe turning a blind eye to the Blue Jays is a better way of saying that, because this team has been disappointing. And I think to come out of the gate strong is going to be massive. How many seasons has this team struggled right out of the gate or had problems, injuries, blah, 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 and had something to blame it on? I think they got to wash all that away, wash that narrative away, and they got to come out hot, come out winning. And I think that will carry these guys throughout the rest of the season. And yes, you're going to have up and downs throughout the year. I mean, every team does. But I think it's super, super important to start out strong.
Well, it's even more important this year when you got Bichette on a contract year. You got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on a contract year. You're going to have about 90 to 100 games before the trade deadline. That trade deadline is going to be a massive turning stone for the Toronto Blue Jays, whether they're going to compete for 2025 or they might completely abandon ship. A bunch of people might be gone. It might be the biggest fire sale that we have seen for the Toronto Blue Jays debatably ever, which we do not want to be at. And if you do not start the season hot, you start the season, let's say it's even 5-10, you're 5 years below 500. If you ride out 500 there, are they going to buy at that deadline? It's kind of up in the sky. Like, nobody really knows. It's pretty murky with where the Toronto Blue Jays would go. So that's why that start is so integral. If you want to keep Vladimir Guerrero Jr. around long term, if you want to keep Bichette around long term, if you want to have a successful season, if you're 10 games below 500 at that trade deadline, they're probably going to be selling off a lot of these assets. They're going to have to start early so they can avoid that situation.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And let us know what you guys think. Do you think the Jays got it in them to start hot, or do you think it's going to just be a sinking ship and slowly we're going to see the disaster and breakup of this squad that's been built for so many years? Let us know what you guys think down below. Carter, we got to talk about some injuries and some big injuries on this team that hopefully won't affect this team for a whole lot, at least in the start of the season, but it may. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Let's talk about all of that before we get into, as well, the Blue Jays' newest signing. We'll talk about all that when we come back.
Today's episode is sponsored by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's a perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my to-go snack. Whether I'm watching a movie, a lot of the time I leave the house, I don't eat, so I need a quick grab and go snack. Wonderful Pistachios, very satiating, tastes really good, and just a very nice, quick and easy go where if you're in a rush, you're in a pinch, you can just grab something and have something to tide you over until you can get a full meal in. Another great thing about Wonderful Pistachios is that they are a complete protein, providing all 9 essential amino acids. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
So, Carter, let's get into it. The injuries of the start of 2025, or at least as of right now, a couple updates on a couple players, some guys we'll get into. We aren't going too crazy on some of them just because we're going to talk about Daulton Varsho, and we have a Daulton Varsho centered episode coming soon to you guys as well, talking about how his season can go. Obviously, that is in our top 10 Blue Jays series going on. So, Carter, let's just start with him, I guess. Get him out of the way. John Schneider says the Blue Jays should have a decision on Daulton Varsho's shoulder by the end of the week. He's throwing at 120 feet. Schneider threw some cold water on the DH idea. It's all very day-to-day, but a brief IL stint to open 2025 is feeling the likeliest. I guess immediate reactions to that, Carter?
I don't mind keeping him on the IL. It's a little bit of a murky situation though as well because he's been playing so good in spring training. He's been so good at the plate early on, and we always talk about this narrative of riding the hot hand. It is spring training, so how much can that really carry over into the regular season? I guess we'll have to find out. But from a fielding perspective, obviously you want Daulton Varsho's shoulder at 100%. You'll look at this guy and he's like a bangerang out there. He's hitting, smashing into the wall. He's diving, no regard for his body whatsoever. You don't want his shoulder at 98%, 99%. He body checks that wall. Maybe it doesn't hold up, and then you have a way bigger problem on your hands. So with this Daulton Varsho situation, it seems like it's only going to be a 10-day IL stint, but if it takes 2 weeks, if it takes 3 weeks, you got to err on the side of caution because this guy already is way ahead of schedule. There's no need to rush this guy back at all. Maybe you want that bat in the lineup, but the Toronto Blue Jays seem like they have some other options that they might want to go to. And it seems like they're really playing the safe route here with Daulton Varsho.
Yeah, and we'll get into that more, in the coming days here as we learn more as well, right? Closer to the end of this week, we will find out what is fully going to be the final decision on Daulton Varsho. I'm sure those of you who are in our fantasy league are going to want to know what's going on with Daulton Varsho as well. A guy that can steal you outs, can, the way he's looking in spring training could be huge as well. But we'll talk about more of that as we move on through this week, Carter. Who else is next on the docket here that you want to talk about?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this before. Shouldn't be an injury that is lingering into the regular season, but it is Max Scherzer, that right thumb soreness. He is scheduled to throw a game in the minor leagues. Not sure how many innings that's going to be, but again, it's right thumb soreness. You wouldn't think this is going to be a massive injury, but for pitchers, like we said, you have a nail, you have a blister on your thumb. That is a massive deal for how effective your pitches can be. So we're going to have to look and see how effective he is in that minor league start, but I don't expect there to be any setbacks regarding Max Scherzer.
Yeah, that's one I'm not really taking much away from. Again, I'm sort of I was really happy with the outings that Max Scherzer's had through spring training. I feel like he looks good. He seems ramped up. So even with an injury like that, it might set you back a day or two. But I feel like he'll be back pitching with the Toronto Blue Jays in no time, and it won't be a big problem. And it isn't probably something that's going to affect his 2025.
No, he's some people's opening day starter. He's got to be ready for the day. He's got to bring butts and seats at the Rogers Center. But the main one I want to get into here is the Erik Swanson one. We kind of covered this last week. Didn't look good at the time. An elbow injury, like we said, that's usually not a good sign. A lot of times when you see that elbow discomfort, leads to bigger and worse things. Not even going to bring up the thing because I do not want it to happen. Clearly, it is not happening here. We did get some good news regarding Erik Swanson. He did get a second opinion on his elbow, but they did a test on it, and the MRI showed that there is no structural damage. And he said after a cortisol shot, he'll be back throwing in a couple of days. So might be an IL stint we see with Erik Swanson as well. Not great considering what happened last year. Erik Swanson, kind of the same story. Obviously, very different circumstances, but did miss early on in the season, missed spring training. Didn't see him produce as we wanted to. Was very good at the end of the season, but you never like to see these pitching setbacks at this time, especially this late in the spring training.
Yeah, I'm really hoping this doesn't affect him moving forward throughout this year, but it's something you can never completely put out of your mind because of what happened last year. And obviously, you're right, totally different circumstances. But it's with any player, right? You get injured, you miss some time, and it can affect you. It really can. And I think the Blue Jays saw a lot of that last year in 2024. So again, hopefully these guys all can stay off the IL, but again, injuries are going to happen. If it's your pitching staff, if it's the guys in the order, it's going to happen. You're going to lose guys for so many games. Nobody's going to play 162 games, right? Nobody's going to play 156 games. They're going to miss time at some point, even if it is just off days. So you just hope that it's not an extended period of time, and they get back quick. And Erik Swanson is a key piece. If he's missing for too long, that's not great for this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen. That there are still question marks, right? I think it's been shored up in a lot of people's minds of what this bullpen can be this season. Obviously with some big additions, some big names. But it's all worrying, right? You lose one guy and then you lose a second guy, and then we're all, then we're really, really worried.
That's exactly where I'm at. We can handle in this bullpen losing one arm, whether it's Erik Swanson. Again, we hope that it's nobody, but if there's one arm you can still have in this situation, you still have Jeff Hoffman, you still have Yimi Garcia, you still have Chad Green, maybe Nick Sandlin takes that step. You do still have some other options. So then Erik Swanson goes down, say, God forbid, Yimi Garcia goes down, knock on wood, you have Chad Green go down as well. Then where are we at here? Now we're kind of in the same situation as we were last year. Like we're kind of just, grabbing a bunch of fringe MLB players, trying to throw them in, seeing if it works. And last year it did not work whatsoever. So this bullpen looks good when everyone is healthy, when everyone is performing up to expectation. And I think they can handle one injury or one player underperforming. But if it becomes multiple, we might have a little bit of a bullpen problem on our hands. But we are talking a little bit about the negatives here. Again, knock on wood, Toronto Blue Jays not going to get injured at all this year. But I want to go into a little bit of positives. We talked about some of these older guys. Wanted to go into some of the younger guys, the top two prospects for the Toronto Blue Jays. We saw Trey Savage take the mound for the first time in a Toronto Blue Jays uniform. First pitch, 97. Absolutely love to see it. There is a lot of raving about the Trey Savage fastball. He put that on display, obviously, in his first start. And one thing that I saw in this start that I absolutely love to see, it was in the fourth inning. Trey Savage first pitch to a batter, throws it way behind him. It's not even close. After that, just battles back. He threw 5 straight strikes. He fouled off a couple. Had a disgusting off-speed pitch, struck him out. And that's exactly the kind of fight that you want to see, especially in a guy that could have an impact in the Toronto Blue Jays sooner than later, especially coming up a very good college season last year.
Yeah, some guys, some prospects are just different breeds. Some of them can just, it's like water off their back. They're not worried about anything. They miss a pitch, whatever. Next pitch, here we go. Other guys will see it affect them a lot more, but I think that's the difference between your good and your great players, or what they can be, is their ability to shake those things off. And so hopefully Trey Savage, that's a part of his game because, man, he's a guy in the next few years, hopefully, again, avoids the injury bug, knock on wood. But hopefully, we'll see him do great things. And the Toronto Blue Jays do have some great pitching coming up through the system. So, we always say it's like a lottery ticket with some of these draft picks. But there are a couple guys now that I'm starting to see like, well, I think we got 2 or 3 guys. Obviously, Ricky Tiedemann still, you never know. That guy's made of glass. But then you still got Jake Bloss, you got Trey Savage, and that's just touching on a few that we could go down the list in probably a further video. Hopefully, we don't really have to talk about too many prospects this year, but it's always nice to keep a look in on some of these guys and know what's coming up through the pipeline.
Yeah, the Toronto Blue Jays do have a few starting pitchers that I love to see. The problem with their starting pitching is a lot of them are made of glass, as you said. A lot of these guys are getting injured, and there's kind of this drop-off. We have some guys you can get excited about, your Jake Blosses, your Trey Savages, Cal Stevens, another guy that I'm interested in. But then you kind of have this drop-off after that, and you really don't have a lot of depth when it comes to this prospect pool, and that's why the Toronto Blue Jays prospect pool is in the bottom 10 in all of baseball. So that is part of the issue is that you do have some guys you can get excited about, but as we get down lower on the list, you get to the 15, 20 top prospects on the team, you start saying, who are these guys? And when you match them up to some of the other prospect pools, they don't even crack their top. Our number 20 guy wouldn't even be their top 40 guy, unfortunately. So that's just how it is in Toronto Blue Jays land. But again, when you have a guy like Trey Savage, who is absolutely chucking out there, first start, obviously in spring training, not going to see him in 2025, obviously, but that is nice to see for a future that is very uncertain right now. Another guy that, again, won't see him this year, probably won't see him next year either, might come in 2027. It's Arjun Namala. I know it's early, but I'm all in. I'm absolutely all in on this guy. Looks so smooth and confident at shortstop. Such a beautiful swing as well, hitting home runs, having 2-hit games. Love to see it from a young player in this Blue Jays organization. Number one prospect in the prospect pool.
Yeah, he's a guy. I mean, he's just built different. Like a lot of these young guys, you don't see that confidence, that level of just, I'm here, I know what I got to do, and he gets the job done. And there isn't, again, this Blue Jays system isn't the best system, but to have a guy like Arjun Namala coming through and being, you sort of get a feel of the future a little bit, right? And I think that's something the Toronto Blue Jays have been missing for a long time, is that are those couple clear guys that eventually will be on this team. And that's barring trades and injuries, whatever you want to say. But those guys, I mean, that's a good thing to see. Now, I think the Toronto Blue Jays are definitely going to have to keep replenishing that system because, every so often they go and make this trade that ships one of those guys off. And I guess ideally we see that this year, right? We see that Toronto Blue Jays making a strong push and wanting to add to this lineup around the deadline. But then we're taking away from a prospect pool that is already pretty thin. So it's sort of a double-edged sword, I guess. It's the win now or win later. What do you want to do? But the way the Toronto Blue Jays have been spending money, I'm not overly worried about the prospect pool as much.
Yeah, that's what we say. Prospects are prospects. They're not proven players at this point. I kind of want to throw just, a random question at you here.
Sure.
For me, I'm not a huge prospect guy. Obviously, you do like to see the guys develop and things like that. But you talk about the Blue Jays being in this win now mode. Again, very unrealistic trade, but I just wanted to throw it at you. Trade scenario, Orelvis Martinez, Will Wagner, Arjun Namala, Trey Savage for Shohei Ohtani. Who says no?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, you have to, right?
Care. Yeah, I don't care. Like, listen, I wasn't a huge prospect guy a couple years ago, Carter, but actually, what's helped me out a ton is just playing MLB The Show, the franchise mode in the March to October, learning about some of these guys, right? What are their strengths? What are they used for? And then, as we're talking on the podcast and as we're watching games in spring training, it's like, oh, this, I just brought this guy up in the video game. So whatever, it's sort of a cool back and forth. MLB The Show does a great job with their games. It's sort of the depth of everybody's rosters. A lot of the guys. I mean, so that's a really cool thing too. And just being able to, in spring training, see how these guys perform is something electric too, which I was never overly involved with. Like, unless it was the big guys, I didn't really care. But now, seeing Trey Savage out there, seeing some of these young guys. I mean, even Alan Roden, another guy that every time he steps up to the plate, I'm excited to see what he can do. So I don't know. That's the nice part about spring training. Do the games matter? Not really, but I know we'll talk about that right away. As you want to talk about, I won't spoil. I'll let you say it when we get into the next segment, Carter. Let's take a quick break. Let's come right back. I know you want to get in on the what's been going on this spring training, how the Blue Jays are competing compared to other teams, plus the new signing for the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll come back with all that right after this break. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. I say that all the time. I when I go out and then I'm like buying lunch one day, or then we go out, for a couple drinks. It's like, geez, you check your bank account the next day and it's just brutal. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop just managing your money and start building wealth. That's a big thing. I want to know where I'm placing my money and how it's going when I do place them in certain things. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half of your first year off. So, Carter, a lot to get into still. I know this is going to be, I feel like the Monday episodes are always super long because we get 9 million things to talk about. And it's just, what can we, get through all in one episode? So, Carter, do you want to talk about the Blue Jays signing here? A little interesting one. Justin Burley and the Toronto Blue Jays have agreed to minor league deal. And that's from JustBB_media on Twitter. So there you go.
Yeah, new signing. Toronto Blue Jays are an absolute wagon now after this one.
Absolutely.
All this signifies to me, you had that Adam Mako injury. I think you're just adding depth to the lefties in this bullpen. We already know Brendan Little's going to be in the bullpen. There is another left-handed spot that is open. It might be Ryan Yarbrough, but he's not on the 40-man roster, so that's going to be interesting to see how they play that. Obviously, can start in AAA. Some of these other guys don't have options. We talked about that earlier on, the Ryan Burrs, the Zach Pops. Maybe just because of that those options, you want to get those guys on your major league team. Again, injuries do happen. You have to account for those. So maybe Ryan Yarbrough, a guy that could come up and be a lefty for this bullpen. Yeah. With this guy, used to be on the Pirates, has pitched like 60 innings at most. There's not a very big sample size for this guy, unfortunately. 76 innings, has a 4.62 ERA, 1.28 whip over his career. Again, more so of a depth signing. Might have some time with the major league club, but I'm still taking Josh Walker over this guy. I'm taking Ryan Yarbrough over him, but it's always nice to have pitching depth. You can never have too many pitchers.
Yeah, you just got to throw things at the wall, see what sticks, and that's probably what this is about, is 100% just shoring up the depth. And yeah, it's sort of whatever. But anyway, Carter, back to the more important stuff. I don't know, maybe you call it more important. I'm going to throw it to you. How good are the Toronto Blue Jays in spring training? An absolute wagon.
Toronto Blue Jays seem like they are an absolute wagon, 13-8, just ahead of the Boston Red Sox, trying to take home the coveted golden grapefruit. Is it a thing? Is it not a thing? Is it a mythical creature? Who knows? Toronto Blue Jays are looking for it, and they're looking to take it home. But a lot of spring training it has been for a lot of players on the Toronto Blue Jays. Hopefully that can transfer over. But at the end of the day, it has been nice to see the Toronto Blue Jays win baseball games, even though they don't matter.
Yeah, and that's all you can really take away from this. I mean, yeah, I can go and say, oh, the Blue Jays are doing so well. But then, you see these teams start to put together what more seems like realistic lineups. And you see the Blue Jays struggle a little bit, and then you're sort of brought back down to earth. And then they go and win another game, and you're like, oh, okay, we're here. But again, flip a coin. I don't care. It's spring training. But it's fun to see the young guys, like I said, some guys showing out that, maybe we had question marks around. So, again, like a guy like Davis Schneider, who's been fairly good this spring training, and just, seeing if he can transfer that over into the regular season. That's something I'll be really interested in. Same with guys like Ernie Clement. How is he going to play in 2025? Playing 3-bag. We'll see where he ends up hitting. I don't know. Andrus Jimenez, another one. So a lot of guys still that I have question marks on, but that I've grown a liking towards, I guess, or not liking towards. That's a bad thing to say, but I'm more confident in them now than I was moving into the spring training. That's for sure.
Yeah, Ernie Clement, 452 average, 1,165 OPS. Best thing about spring training is that when the players are doing well, you spin zone it. Oh, they're going to carry that into the regular season. They're playing so well in spring training. Things aren't going well. Oh, it's just spring training.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. It's spring training. Doesn't matter if they're hitting 100 like George Springer is, or it doesn't matter if they're hitting 450 like Ernie Clement is. It's spring training. So Ernie Clement going to carry that over the season. George Springer got to figure something out. Something's got to change. Hopefully this guy can make a switch because it's not looking too good right now. But hey, it's just spring training. So we do have some time for George Springer to hopefully prove some people wrong. We did have him in our top 10, barely did make the list. Hopefully we were trying to put some good juju out there. We'll see if it does work out. But I guess we'll have to see what's left to be desired when we're talking about George Springer. But just wanted to say thanks you guys for watching. The likes, comments, everything recently has been much appreciated. The countdown's getting closer and closer. It's March 17th is going to be the day that we are posting this podcast. It means there's 10 days until opening day. I can taste it. I can taste the Toronto Blue Jays baseball being back. It is going to be unbelievable seeing some of these guys back in Toronto Blue Jay blue on opening day against the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, it's going to be electric. It's going to be electric. Let us know also, like what we talked about in the first segment, on, who do you think is going to start for this team opening day? What do you think this rotation will look like, say halfway through the season? Do you think there are changes that need to be made? Let us know what you guys think. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.